much. Your Romanian is great. Actually, yeah. Actually, I've been very interested in teaching for a very long time. I have a teaching background in my family. My mother is also a teacher, so teaching is running through our veins, if I may say so. Along the years, I've also been interested in oral student skills, in helping students enhance their oral competence, because actually, as an English teacher, I've realized that for a language user, it's very difficult to produce a message. So productive skills are usually more difficult than receptive skills. It's more difficult to speak or to write than to understand everything. So today we're going to take a look at a paper I have written with my colleague Madalina Chitez. Actually, she's my PhD supervisor. And together we have done some research on the writing culture clash that resides between our two main languages, English as L2 as the second language and Romanian as mother tongue. I will begin with a little bit of context that will lead to our research focus. So in the Romanian pre-university setting, and when I say pre-university, I mean the entire school period, since the first year a child goes to school, so first grade, or even pre-primary school, up to the end of upper secondary school, so high school, before they go to university. So in the Romanian pre-university setting, students and parents alike, because without parents, we are nothing, they have become increasingly aware of the importance of learning English. And according to data provided by the National Institute of Statistics in Romania, English ranks first in the top of foreign languages studied in schools. And in 2020, just to give you some numbers, 87.75% of the total number of school students aged 6 to 14 and 88.56% of the total number of upper secondary schools students aged between 15 and 18 chose English as their first foreign language. Since 1989, so after the fall of communism, Romania started adopting a national educational policies, which have led to significant curricular changes. These changes were meant to redefine and refine the status of English as a foreign language. And our curriculum is based on the European, actually, key competencies, which have laid some descriptors for curriculum development. And these descriptors actually guide our methodology and our practices. Because our focus today is on essay writing, I want to say a few words about the fact that essays are the most common compulsory writing tasks assessed in both national and international English examinations. When I say this, I mean that students at the end of high school, let's say, we call it the National Baccalaureate exam in Romania, need to take an exam in English. This is called Module C in the baccalaureate exam. So they take this exam, and their writing task usually consists of a compulsory essay and the second part, which is usually a choice between 2 or 3 suggestions. Also, children or students, actually, because they are almost 17 or 18 when they take their B2 first or C1 advanced Cambridge examinations, have to write essays as a compulsory task. And also, those who are really good at foreign languages, at English, take part in the county or national English Olympiads, and essays are compulsory there too. So this is why we chose to focus on essay writing. And we realized that high school students prepare to become competent essay writers in their mother tongue, so in Romanian or even Hungarian, because we have a large community of Hungarian students close to the Hungarian border, and in English as a foreign language simultaneously. This is actually where the culture clash begins, since both the writing requirements and the assessment criteria in Romanian and in English differ in some respects. Teachers and students alike need to pay attention to the writing culture clash that may occur. Of course, over the years, the literature of second and foreign language writing research has suggested different approaches to teaching academic writing, because a few years back, the traditional approach to the second language, to L2 writing, took the form of controlled compositions, that is, writing purely grammatically correct sentences, maybe even based on given patterns. This type of writing was meant to focus on the students reaching a high level of accuracy in their written work, mainly by imitating their teachers or imitating some given piece of writing. Nevertheless, the paradigm needed to change in order to accommodate the various deliberate functions of language. And the focus has shifted from sentence level accuracy to macro level communicative purposes. Students, therefore, should always be aware that they do not write merely because their teacher asks them to do so, but because through their writing, they are able to fulfill a certain real-life social function. For instance, when writing a letter of complaint, students express dissatisfaction. This is a very common aspect of real life, right? Because we usually want to express our dissatisfaction when we don't get the services that we expect. They also ask for compensation. When writing a narrative essay, students entertain their target audience. And when writing an argumentative essay, so the focus of our research, their endeavor is to persuade their readers with arguments and examples, of course. On the right, you can see some assessment, the descriptors, actually the assessment descriptors given in the B2 and C1 Cambridge exams, the FC and the CAE. I am not going to read them. You can take a look at them if you want. The basic idea is to notice the communicative achievement part, which is actually very important. Besides the content, besides the organization, the language used, the communicative achievement, so that communicative purpose I was mentioning before. This is very, very important, as when we think about this external, the Cambridge ESOL examinations. Whereas in the high school, so the Romanian high school graduation exam, which I mentioned earlier, the baccalaureate, we mainly see content, organization, grammatical correctness, and vocabulary as criteria to be assessed. The same is in the county and national English Olympiad. So content, organization, vocabulary, structures, which also mean criterion, which also means grammar, and very subjective criteria, effect on target reader. This difference is very important in terms of communicative purposes, because as we can see in the international examinations focus on that, whereas the national framework still lacks this aspect. Teaching students to write a good essay is quite challenging, especially for non-native users of English, because a proficient academic writer needs to possess good command of grammar patterns, lexical variety, sentence complexity, cohesion, coherence, rhetorical devices, sequency, attitude markers, register, appropriacy, spelling, punctuation, word order, word choice, paragraph building techniques, and they should also observe the length limitations. So there's a myriad of criteria they need to take into account. Furthermore, producing a well-crafted essay encompasses complex thinking processes at various stages. I mean, planning, organization, writing, rewriting, taking into account the teacher's feedback, creativity, critical thinking skills, referencing, general knowledge, but most importantly, practice. Why do we teach? Usually, testing is something which is considered to be the ultimate tool to measure the efficiency of teaching and of learning. So the teaching narrative is constricted when content coverage, when test preparation, and when scores become central concerns. Consequently, the influence of exams on teachers is undeniable, especially when it comes to high stakes national examinations. So the tendency to teach for an exam is visible in many Romanian language and literature classes, starting with lower secondary school, more precisely with 7th and 8th grades, and then further on in upper secondary school too. The pressure of obtaining good results in national exams determines teachers and students to resort to checklists to ensure their essays are successful. Thus, students develop a routine-oriented approach to essay writing long before they begin to write opinion and argumentative essays in English. When they do start tackling essays in English, they already carry a template-based baggage that is very challenging to discard and often leads to culture clashes. There is much concern related to the approaches which are highly examination oriented and can result in the undesirable negative washback effect. What's this washback effect? It's actually the idea of narrowing the curriculum down so as to accommodate the exam format. So teaching for a certain exam, focusing on what the exam is about. When dealing with essay writing, the washback effect involves not only unwelcome curricular leaps and gaps, but also unhealthy attitudes towards the student's personal involvement and cognitive development. Now I'm going to tell you a few words about our research. So this article was inspired by the finding that in the process of essay writing in English by Romanian students, the linguistic phenomenon of interference is found constantly and systematically. Thus, we may consider the Romanian English culture clash in pre-university essay writing contexts as a challenging research landmark in applied linguistics. The data and the methodology of our research started by compiling a roughly 14,000 word corpus. We called it HiSEC. It actually comes from, it's an acronym, and it refers to High School Exam Essay Corpus. This corpus comprises 60 argumentative and opinion essays. 20 essays were written by 12th grade graduates in 2009. 20 essays were written by students in their preparation stage. So when they prepared for the B2 first or C1 advanced Cambridge exams. And the other 20 essays were written by 11th grade students in 2022. These texts were randomly selected regardless of the marks they were given by the teacher. They were not corrected in any way, so no alteration was done to these essays, and they illustrate the linguistic instruction the students have been provided during high school. In order to carry out this corpus-based analysis, we use the tool called Langbox. It's a software package, and this corpus is a pilot extension of the Roger corpus you may have heard about yesterday when my colleague presented something similar on the same topic, corpus linguistics. The results of our work are presented in the form of a report, and this report was also obtained by using this Langbox tool called Wizard. This indicates that regardless of the writing context, most students largely use conventional patterns when it comes to expressing opinions or introducing arguments. So what I mentioned before about the routine-oriented approach. Also, it is noticeable that the baccalaureate exam papers have a lower level of English than the Cambridge preparation essays or the county English Olympiad essays. This is not something we were astonished by. The same baccalaureate exam papers are more likely to display routine-oriented argumentative patterns using linkers and other standard structures meant to accommodate the exam format. So what I mentioned before about the washback effect, to the detriment of the substance. The corpus analysis indicates certain types of errors, and you may take a look at some examples, which I will not read, examples of errors. Due to the limitation of this study, we haven't analyzed the errors, but we focused on the interference between English and Romanian when it comes to essay writing. And these errors, but we noticed that these errors are caused by the linguistic interference of the student's mother tongue, Romanian and English L2, such as misspellings, calques, semantic confusion, verb tense, wrong verb tense, sentence structure, word order, and other types of errors. When it comes to the discussion and the conclusions we may reach, is that we should be aware, we, the teachers, the students, we should be aware of this linguistic interference, the mother tongue interference when it comes to writing and expressing ourselves in English. This inherently leads to errors, and we must also be aware of the dangers of structuring written work based on pre-established writing parameters, largely consisting of the use of linkers and phrases. Actually, it is in this very aspect that resides the highest level of culture clash between Romanian and English. And instead of focusing students' efforts on the socio-cognitive approach to writing, which places emphasis on the reader's expectations or on social cultural contexts, many Romanian teaching narratives focus on providing students with prescriptive methods and checklists that lead to superficial arguments, which are being built on phraseological parameters. This habit is often imported in L2 English class, and considerable efforts need to be made to help students break themselves of it. Thus, English teachers in Romania, and not only, should push their students to explore their social, cultural, linguistic background, go beyond preset formulas and structures in the written and spoken production, and they should also undergo professional training in terms of teaching and assessing writing to better assist their students in the learning process and keep away from the washback effect. This is my acknowledgement of the Roger project, which has helped me a lot in the research, and the references. Thank you very much. I don't know if I observe the length limitations.
Everything's
but
okay.
I'm available for questions.
There is shouldn't. Okay. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
And there is a time for a discussion. And